The Deepwater Horizon, a floating fortress of steel and technology, towers 33 stories above the Gulf of Mexico. Owned by Transocean and leased by BP, this semi-submersible offshore drilling unit represents the pinnacle of deep-sea exploration. Stationed 41 miles off Louisiana's coast, it's drilling the Macondo well in waters nearly a mile deep. Below that, the drill penetrates another 13,000 feet into the Earth's crust. 126 crew members work aboard, extracting oil from one of the most challenging environments on Earth. Few realize they're sitting on a disaster waiting to happen. Warning signs. In the weeks leading up to April 20, 2010, warning signs accumulate like storm clouds. Workers report equipment failures and abnormal pressure readings. Engineers express concerns about the well design and cement job critical for sealing the well against dangerous gas intrusions. Management decisions prioritize schedule over safety as the project falls behind and over budget. The crew conducts negative pressure tests to check well integrity, but concerning results are misinterpreted or dismissed. These dismissed red flags will soon demand attention in the most catastrophic way possible: the explosion. At 9:49 p.m. on April 20, 2010, methane gas from the well surges up the drill column, expands rapidly, and ignites. The resulting explosion rocks the massive rig with devastating force. Fireballs shoot hundreds of feet into the night sky. The blowout preventer, the last line of defense designed to seal the well in emergencies, fails catastrophically. Chaos erupts across the platform as workers scramble through smoke, debris, and darkness. Some jump nearly 100 feet into the oil-slicked water below. 11 workers never make it off the rig, lost in those first terrible moments, the Inferno. For 36 hours, the Deepwater Horizon burns uncontrollably, a hellish beacon visible for miles across the Gulf. Rescue vessels circle below, plucking survivors from the water while firefighting ships assault the flames with water cannons. The heat is so intense it melts steel and warps the rig's massive structure. The remaining crew members, 115 survivors, watch from rescue boats as their workplace transforms into a funeral pyre. Finally, on April 22, the crippled platform loses its battle with the sea and sinks, disappearing beneath the waves. But the disaster is only beginning. The broken well. With the rig gone, cameras reveal the true horror. The wellhead on the ocean floor continues to gush oil unabated. At nearly 5,000 feet below the surface, it's beyond the reach of human divers. The blowout preventer, a 5-story, 450-ton safety device, sits useless, its multiple redundant systems all having failed. Oil spurts from the broken riser pipe at pressures exceeding 13,000 pounds per square inch. What follows becomes an engineering challenge unprecedented in human history. Stopping a high-pressure oil geyser a mile underwater. First response. As news breaks, an armada mobilizes. Coast Guard vessels, skimmer ships, and aircraft converge on the Gulf. BP deploys remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, to assess damage and attempt manual activation of the blowout preventer's emergency functions. Surface vessels begin deploying containment booms, floating barriers meant to corral oil slicks for collection. Chemical dispersants are sprayed from aircraft to break up surface oil. But these measures are like using garden tools against a wildfire. The leak, initially estimated at 1,000 barrels daily, is soon revealed to be more than 60 times worse, the growing slick. Each hour, the oil slick expands. Satellite images reveal an inky stain stretching across the Gulf's vibrant blue. Currents carry ribbons of crude in unpredictable patterns toward shorelines in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. The oil's consistency varies. Sometimes appearing as a thin rainbow sheen, other times forming thick, rust-colored mousse or tar balls. Marine mammals surface to breathe in oil-covered water. Seabirds land on slicks, mistaking them for safe resting places. Scientists track the spill's expansion with growing alarm, knowing that even invisible components of the oil pose dire threats to marine life. Containment dome. BP's first major containment strategy arrives on May 4th, a 125-ton concrete and steel dome designed to cap the biggest leak. Engineers call it the cofferdam. The concept is straightforward: lower the structure over the largest leak point and funnel escaping oil to a surface ship. But undersea realities prove more challenging. As the dome reaches the cold depths, methane gas crystallizes into hydrates, clogging the structure and making it buoyant. The dome, intended as a solution, floats uselessly aside the still gushing well. Another week passes, another 1,000,000 barrels enter the Gulf, the top kill. By late May, BP attempts the top kill procedure, pumping heavy drilling mud into the well at high pressure, hoping to overcome the upward force of escaping oil. For 3 days, the world watches ROV footage of mud mixing with oil at the wellhead. Initial optimism fades as engineers increase pumping rates with no success. The pressure from the reservoir proves too powerful. After 30,000 barrels of mud and multiple failed attempts, BP abandons the top kill strategy on May 29. The company's stock plunges and public anger intensifies as each failed attempt compounds the environmental catastrophe. Junk shot. Desperation inspires unconventional measures. The junk shot involves pumping shredded tires, golf balls, rope, and other debris into the blowout preventer to clog its internal components. Engineers hope this debris will create enough resistance for heavy mud to counteract the reservoir pressure, allowing cement to permanently seal the well. But like previous attempts, the junk shot fails. The extreme pressure from oil and gas simply forces the materials aside. The well continues its relentless flow, and each failed attempt erodes public confidence in BP's ability to control the disaster they've created. LMRP Cap. In early June, after multiple failures, BP tries a new approach, cutting the damaged riser pipe to create a clean surface for a containment cap. The lower marine riser package, or LMRP cap, is lowered into place by ROVs. While not a perfect seal, this cap successfully begins capturing some oil and routing it to surface vessels. For the first time since the explosion, a portion of the spewing oil, approximately 15,000 barrels daily, is being contained rather than entering Gulf waters. But this represents only about 25% of the total flow. The environmental nightmare continues while engineers work on more permanent solutions. Impact on wildlife. As oil spreads, wildlife casualties mount. Pelicans, Louisiana's state bird, struggle with oil-matted feathers that destroy their insulation and buoyancy. Dolphins surface in slicks, their blowholes clogged with oil. Sea turtles mistake tar balls for food. Fish eggs and larvae, particularly vulnerable to oil's toxic effects, die in uncountable numbers. Rescue centers fill with oil-covered animals requiring careful cleaning. Many don't survive even with intervention. Beyond these visible victims, scientists worry about the countless organisms affected throughout the food chain, from microscopic plankton to deep-sea coral communities showered with oil from below. Coastal arrival. By June, oil reaches shorelines across 5 states. Louisiana's delicate marshlands, nurseries for much of the Gulf's sea life, become coated in crude. Barrier islands, already eroding from years of human activity, absorb another blow. White sandy beaches in Alabama and Florida turn brown and sticky. Tourism collapses as visitors cancel vacations. Fishing grounds close, idling generations of fishermen. Cleanup workers in protective suits outnumber beachgoers. Communities that have weathered hurricanes and economic hardships face a new, insidious threat that will linger long after the headlines fade. Cleanup Army. A massive workforce mobilizes, over 47,000 people and 7,000 vessels at the response's peak. Workers deploy more than 13 million feet of containment boom. Ships skim oil from surface waters. Teams comb beaches for tar balls. Others wash oil from marsh grasses blade by blade, careful not to cause more damage than the oil itself. In deeper waters, controlled burns create plumes of black smoke but eliminate thousands of barrels of surface oil. It's the largest environmental cleanup in American history, costing over $14 billion, yet still insufficient against the volume of spilled oil dispersant controversy. To break up the oil, BP sprays unprecedented quantities of chemical dispersants, 1.8 million gallons, including 771,000 gallons directly at the wellhead a mile underwater. These chemicals break oil into tiny droplets that remain suspended in the water column rather than reaching the surface or shorelines. While potentially reducing coastal impacts, this creates a massive underwater plume of dispersed oil droplets with unknown consequences for marine life. Scientists and environmentalists question the trade-off, concerned that dispersants may increase oil's toxicity or make it more bioavailable to sea creatures throughout the water column, the relief wells. As surface efforts continue, the most promising long-term solution progresses slowly, drilling relief wells to intersect the original well deep underground. 2 relief wells begin in May, with the primary well advancing roughly 100 feet per day. The operation requires extraordinary precision, hitting a target the size of a dinner plate from more than 3 miles away. It's like threading a needle from the distance of a city block. These wells represent the most certain way to permanently seal the leak, but require months to complete. Meanwhile, oil continues flowing at tens of thousands of barrels daily, capping stack. On July 12, 83 days into the disaster, BP begins lowering a 75-ton capping stack, essentially a new, functioning blowout preventer, onto the well. For 3 tense days, RVs work with millimeter precision to bolt the massive device onto the flowing well. On July 15, valves close. For the first time since April 20, oil stops entering Gulf waters. Pressure readings indicate the well is holding, with no dangerous seepage from the seafloor. While not the final solution, the cap marks a pivotal moment. After months of failure, engineers have finally stopped the flow. The static kill. With the cap holding, BP implements the static kill procedure in early August. This involves pumping heavy drilling mud down through the cap and into the well, followed by cement to create a solid plug. Unlike the failed top kill attempt, this operation benefits from the capping stack already controlling the well's pressure. The procedure works. Testing confirms the cement has created a solid barrier. But officials remain cautious. The well has surprised them before with its ferocity. A more permanent solution requires completing at least one relief well to seal the reservoir from below. The final seal. On September 16th, the first relief well finally intersects the original well bore 13,000 feet below the seabed. Engineers pump cement through this junction, creating what they call a bottom kill, the definitive end to any possibility of further leakage. 3 days later, after pressure tests confirm the cement has sealed the reservoir completely, the federal government officially declares the well effectively dead. The 87-day nightmare of active leakage ends, though its consequences will continue for decades. The empty Emperor's Crown, world's worst accidental marine oil spill, now belongs to Deepwater Horizon, the toll. The numbers tell one story: 11 workers dead, 17 severely injured. Approximately 210 million gallons of oil released, enough to fill 320 Olympic swimming pools. Over 1,300 miles of shoreline oiled. More than 8,000 animals found dead during the response alone, including dolphins, sea turtles, and countless birds. Billions in economic damages to fishing, tourism, and related industries. But statistics fail to capture the full impact. The grief of families who lost loved ones, communities with livelihoods destroyed, ecosystems forever altered, and the psychological toll on those who witnessed their environment transformed by human error and corporate negligence. The investigation. Multiple investigations reveal a cascade of failures, mechanical, operational, and organizational. The blowout preventer's emergency functions were disabled by poor maintenance. Cement job flaws went unaddressed. Warning signs were misinterpreted or ignored. Safety systems that should have prevented disaster failed sequentially. Most damning are findings that a culture prioritizing speed over safety pervaded operations. Internal BP documents reveal decisions to use cheaper, riskier options to save time. The disaster, investigators conclude, was not inevitable but resulted from preventable human choices that consistently elevated production over precaution. The accountability. Legal consequences follow. BP pleads guilty to 14 criminal charges including manslaughter and environmental crimes, paying $4.5 billion in fines. Civil penalties at $20.8 billion more, the largest environmental settlement in U.S. history. Transocean and Halliburton face their own penalties. New regulations strengthen offshore drilling safety requirements. But many affected by the spill question whether any amount of money constitutes true accountability or if the punishment truly fits the crime. For families who lost loved ones and communities with permanently altered ways of life, no settlement can fully restore what was lost. The recovery. Gulf recovery proceeds unevenly. Tourism rebounds relatively quickly as visible oil disappears from beaches. Fisheries gradually reopen as testing shows seafood safe for consumption. But beneath the surface, scientists document lingering effects. Immune system damage in dolphins, reduced reproduction in certain fish species, deep-sea coral colonies damaged by oil that may take centuries to recover. Oil persists in marsh sediments and deeper waters. Nature demonstrates remarkable resilience, yet certain impacts may last generations. The disaster becomes a living laboratory for studying how marine ecosystems respond to and recover from catastrophic oil contamination. The lessons. Deepwater Horizon forces a reckoning with the risks of ultra-deepwater drilling. Regulatory reforms strengthen blowout preventer requirements, mandate worst-case discharge planning, and require third-party verification of safety systems. Companies develop better containment technology for future emergencies. But the most profound lessons transcend technical fixes, addressing the human factors that allowed disaster to unfold: communication failures, complacency about risks, and corporate cultures that rewarded speed over safety. The offshore industry acknowledges a harsh truth: no technological advancement can compensate for human negligence or organizational failure to prioritize safety. The legacy. 15 years later, Deepwater Horizon remains a powerful cautionary tale. Its legacy lives in strengthened regulations, improved technology, and enhanced response capabilities. It lives in research programs studying long-term environmental effects. It lives in coastal restoration projects funded by settlement dollars. Most importantly, it lives in the collective memory of an industry and a nation reminded of the catastrophic potential when complex systems fail. As deepwater drilling continues globally, Deepwater Horizon stands as both warning and obligation, a constant reminder of what's at stake when human ingenuity confronts nature's unforgiving forces without sufficient respect for the risks.